Hello? Good. Fixed it. There we go. Seems like I'm live. That's good. Gonna activate that phone later. First, switch chat for me. A different phone. Oh, he's still alive. There we go. HDMI 3. On that brace back on. My wrist. Of course. Of course. Well, I wouldn't want to go through an update when I'm wanting to stream.
since that has a lower audio. Hit that for play.
Okay, so we'll go around now, call people to talk about how they got started in IT and what their career has been. And then we'll get around to what courses later on, after we do a round of that, I'll ask what courses they teach and what kind of advice they would give to students. And at that point, we would take some questions if there are any. So we'll go around, we'll start with Mike.
Hi, thanks, Jim. So I'm Mike Camper. I presently am the Director of Network Services for the Champlain Valley School District. And I'm guessing, like most people my age, I did not start my career in IT going through college with a degree in IT and all. I mean, back when I was in college in the 70s, we used punch cards for programming. And PCs really weren't around. It was all mainframe terminals and all. So in college, I have a degree in food nutrition. I'm actually a registered dietitian. I did a internship at Younger Haven. I worked out at Younger Haven in dietetics for about a year and a half, and then I moved up here to Burlington at the Medical Center Hospital of Vermont. At one point, I became the director of the nutrition services department at what was the Medical Center Hospital of Vermont. And I remember so clearly in the mid 80s, the hospital got their first IBM PC. It had dual.
Okay.
Floppy disk drives, A and B. You know, we had a training thing on how to use it, and I just kind of fell in love with the computer. You would find me, I would go down there as often as I could to play with, you know, what was the early spreadsheet program? I can't think of the name. One of the very early spreadsheet programs.
VisiCalc.
Yes, VisiCalc. Yeah. So I would play with that, and then I would do basic programming. I just kind of loved it, and I was tinkering over the few years, and then Champlain College in the early '90s developed a certificate program in PC support and networking. So I kind of did that for about 2.5 years, which is my formal education, I guess, in information technology. At the same time, my wife was finishing up her master's degree in special education, and she had been a stay-at-home mom, and our kids got old enough so she was able to go to work as a special educator. And we kind of decided that was a good time if I wanted to make a career change, which by then I'd had it with hospital food service. It was a great time to make the career change. So I jumped from the hospital. My first technician job, information technology technician job, was with the state of Vermont in the Department of Independent Living down in Waterbury. I worked there for about 6 months, and then I had a shared position with the Stern Center and Pine Ridge as network administrator. They each had a need for a half-time network administrator. They couldn't support a full-time one, and the two business managers knew each other, so they came up with the idea, let's pull that together into one full-time position. So I did that for a year. I cut my teeth in network administration with Novell, NetWare. I absolutely loved NetWare. So after a year there, the network administrator position at the Williston School District opened up, and I applied for that, and I started my career with the Champlain Valley School District as a network administrator in Williston. And we were a Novell shop, you know, ZenWorks and Border Manager and all that kinds of fun stuff. Very first PCs we had to work with, we had to insert cards, and we had to set switches on the cards for IRQs and all. And I remember taking the cover off these stupid things it was next to impossible. It was metal. You had to do it just right. Oh, we had all kinds of fun with that. Probably so I started with the school district at Wilson Schools in about 2000, March 2000. In 2005, our superintendent at the time decided to take all the IT people from the schools and pull us into a network services department for the school district. So in 2005, I became the director of that department, and I've been doing it ever since. At some point,
watch my own stream.
The Chittenden South Supervisory Union became a school district, and the only big advantage of that was we were way more centrally managed. We went from 6 school boards to 1 school board. So that happened about 5 years ago. When we became the Champlain Valley School District, we built a Windows network. We built a WAN, so we're all connected. All the schools are connected. We share the same network, same login, and all. So that's sort of how I got to where I am today. You know, I absolutely have no regrets making the change. I absolutely love I love working in technology.
Great. As a coincidence, I'm still teaching a networking class at Champlain, and today I brought in all my old junk for show. And so I showed them punch cards. Programming on this, you know, and then I showed them an old it was an old sound card, and it was the width of a PC base. It would slide into both slots in the front and the back and take up the entire base. And you could see all the components, and then showed them how very large scale integrated circuitry came about. We, you know, shipped it. I brought vacuum tubes and transistors and stuff like that. And I think they were really unimpressed. You know, but I had fun. Darren, how about you?
Hey, there we go. Hey, everybody, thank you very much, Jim, and Mike as well. Appreciate it. My name is Darren Spafford, and I got into gaming. Speaking of bringing in junk, I brought some show and tell stuff too. So we'll see if you guys can identify a few things. This is how I started my career in technology.
That here. Sounds better now.
Oh yeah, Mixer.
Yeah, it's a Pong system. Do you guys remember Pong?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I still have it from Montgomery Wars. My parents bought it when I was like 2. And also bought in my favorite, the Atari 2600, with a cartridge. But I thought that'd be a good tribute for any gamers out there that think there's no hope in technology. There absolutely is. So the gaming, that's where it all started. So I actually didn't start my technology career until I was much older. I went to school for art and graphic design and to be a teacher. So I spent a lot of my life as an art teacher in a public school. I guess in my 20s, I started developing an interest for HTML and CSS and kind of taught myself. And then I started picking up JavaScript and sort of became a hobby. And I started teaching other teachers how to use this technology to keep track of portfolios. And then I started volunteering. I started using the experience to help nonprofits build their first ever websites. This was back in maybe around 1999 when websites were still kind of, a lot of people didn't have them back then. And just kind of pedal on my own for a long time. And then I ended up at the Vermont Country Store on a totally different job. I ended up working there as a graphic designer, but over my 5 years there, I was asked to use my volunteer experience to help them build their first ever website. So I was kind of involved in pretty heavily working with the internet director and the creative team and building that website and getting up and running. At the time, it was a static page. and they put it on an e-commerce platform, and I had the original design, and I worked with a lot of the code. So that was kind of an exciting project. And then my interest from there grew, and then in 2005 I got a master's in internet engineering from Marlborough College. That's when I really decided to put my brain to work with what I learned. When I started, the old saying I think in technology we use is that the more I learn, the less I know. So after picking up front-end technology, I was like, oh, there's a lot more. So I became sort of a back-end developer too. So my approach is definitely from a more creative background, sort of coming into technology at a later age, and then using that very creatively. But I did go out my own for 3 or 4 years as a business owner, developing websites for nonprofits. I built back in 2007 a content management system. It was all type in page. So all you did was log in at the top of the screen, and then login went away, and you could type right into the page. It was all XML based with databases, and used Ajax to interface with the backend in real time and save data whenever somebody like lost focus on a field. So it was really fun, a project. I did another project where we worked with Lasan Industries in Bennington. At the time they were doing army manufacturing. This was in probably 2007. So this was when the war was really kind of getting going. So they were taking, anyways, they were bringing in parts from other countries, and they needed an inventory tracking system. They put all the pieces together to make the parts. They needed to track if a faulty bolt came in. They needed to get all the pieces off the floor. So I worked with them for about a year and built a barcode scanning internet system to track inventory and track process. So they were able to help train people and make their process much more efficient, prevent problems from going out the door. We saved quite a lot of money that first year. So just kind of odds and ends things that I've stumbled into. But now I think I use technology a lot more creatively. But we'll get to that when we talk about what classes we teach. I guess that's coming up in just a minute. So just maybe a different approach from a more creative art background. Way of looking at the world, and then falling in love with technology. So I just kind of switched lanes. We're good. That's it. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Darren. I'll just show, since you mentioned toys, I'll show this. This one's 60 years old. This is one I got as a kid. And it was called Figatron. And it had little cards that you could put in there, little punch cards you put in there, slide them in, lights on the front. The punch cards would have questions on them, and you'd answer the question, and then the light would light up. But it was all just through the punch cards, the contacts would just turn on the light bulbs to make the right pattern. It wasn't really doing anything, but it was because we were talking 1950s, now 1960s. It was a model of a mainframe for kids at that time. Tyler.
Hey, folks. So I'm Tyler Whitney. How I got started with technology, actually, I kind of always liked technology. I always liked working with computers. A lot of similarities actually with Darren. I went to SUNY Plattsburgh, right across the lake from Vermont, and I started out with language. I thought I was going to be like either a high school language teacher or maybe a translator or something, because I really liked Spanish in high school. But as I was in college and I was realizing, I don't know if this is what I want to do. I liked language in high school, but I didn't like it as much in college. And I'd always been playing with computers, building gaming computers. So I got a job at our computing help desk where we would do all sorts of repairs and pulling machines apart and everything. So I decided to switch to computer science at that point. And we covered a lot of different areas, including our computer science program had a lot of programming, and I think we used Java back then. And so I just did really well because I loved it. And I had bad advice once. Someone said, well, don't do what you love, do like the second thing you love. So I'm like, well, I love computers the most. So I didn't do that. I went into language. So I was always nervous when I switched to computer science, but then I realized it was just bad advice because I still love computers to this day. I still love what I do as a job. So I'm really thankful that I found that. Let's see. So I graduated with my bachelor's of science in computer science, and I went over to work for the University of Vermont in ResLife. I was they needed an IT technician, but I also started working on a lot of their ResLife systems. So I became more of a web app developer, and actually developed an inventory system very similar to what Darren was talking about, and a mail system too that involved barcodes. So got a lot of my experience just kind of tinkering around, learning on my own. I worked for a couple of software development firms and a couple cool startups, and long story short, I'm now back at SUNY Plattsburgh. I did get my master's in 2012 from Boston University in computer information systems. So I teach part-time for CCV. I teach for a university in Ohio, as well as some classes at Plattsburgh, but I'm a full-time system administrator and programmer at Plattsburgh. The title is senior programmer analyst, so I run a small team of system admins and developers there. We do, being as we know at CCV being relatively small too, we wear a lot of different hats. So I'm fortunate enough to play with web technologies like PHP, JavaScript. I primarily focus on backend, but there's a couple people who work on front end that work with me. And then operating system stuff too. So I'm deep into Linux, which is the stuff I teach that I'll get into a little later too. But primarily a system administrator with a lot of focus on like middleware and integration programming type stuff is what I do.
Thank you. James.
There we go. Hi, my name is James Nye. I don't really have when I got into technology, because 75% of my family grew up or were working at IBM. So it's just kind of always been part of my life. I never really had a chance to not experience technology. So I mean, growing up, my mom was trying to get her 2-year degree from VTC. And when I was 6 years old, she was trying to figure out how to program. So she figured if she could teach her 6-year-old how to program in BASIC, then she understood the material. So I've been, since 6 years old, I've been programming computers. So I've always been exposed to that. My uncle, who lived a couple doors down, was always the one buying the computers from IBM. I remember spending one weekend with him where we got our first hard drive for the old IBM PS2 Model 30, where that just had 2 3.5-inch low density drives. Was not designed for a hard drive, and we had to take a 20 meg hard drive, build a whole bracket for it, actually install it, and then format it, and find out that DOS 3.3 can't handle a 20 meg drive. It's way too big. So I had to partition everything, build all the geometry. Way back when they take the entire weekend to install a hard drive. So I've always had that exposure all the way through life. Kept doing it through school, grade school. The back of 321 Contact always had basic games that you just type in the code from, and then run it, and you have a quick little game that's like 300 lines of code or something. So I kept doing all that stuff all through school. High school, did Turbo Pascal, did C++, that type of stuff. Get all done high school. I went, okay, I'm gonna go UVM. I'm gonna become a computer programmer. I didn't quite make it the entire first year because I got into the social aspect and a little bit less focused on school. And went, I don't know if I want to be a programmer. I don't want to sit behind a computer screen all day. Yeah, I'd rather be social and party. And then UVM said, you need to go away for a little bit and get your head on straight at another college, and then you're gonna be welcome back. But instead, I went to work for IBM, just like the rest of the family. Worked there for about a year as a temp. Went, wow, I don't like this job. I want to go back to school. I want to get something better. So I enrolled in CCB, and then spent 3 years there, just taking whatever I wanted to, with no real focus because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I looked at for a while there. I was gonna be a kindergarten teacher. I was just exploring different avenues, and then. I worked with Melissa, and we actually, I was the first graduate with a PC network administration degree because I found that I actually loved Cisco networking. So I graduated with that, but unfortunately when I graduated was the dot-com bubble burst. So trying to find a job in technology in 2003, 2004 was almost impossible to do. So I just kept plugging away at IBM, working night shift, and for no college education, that job paid really well. And then I had a college education, then couldn't find a job. So I just kept, plugging away there. But in the meantime, I had a LinkedIn profile, so I kept getting random field tech works, just per diem. They call out, have me go out, drive over to Plattsburgh to like women's clothing stores and stuff like that, and roll their networks over from an ISDN to an actual T1 connection. So I spend, between 2 and 4 hours on site working with remote engineers and getting everything rolled over. So I kept having my resume with these little small jobs. And then in 2005, basically, there was a layoff coming at IBM at the time, and I was like, I need to get out of here. So I went and volunteered. I said, just give me one of the layoff packages. It'll be one less person that doesn't want to leave, and then I'll just take the severance. And I quit IBM and ended up getting a job at Sovereignnet, one of our local ISPs. I went about 2 months between where I quit and I got the job at Sovereignnet. I did bartending in between just to have something to do, and I got hired there. I remember coming in with a suit and tie and trying to be a nice presentation, and the guy comes out with khaki shorts and a plaid shirt on and asked me if I played Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, this is the weirdest interview I've ever been in. But ended up getting the job there, starting as just basic level help desk, answering email questions, dial-up modem questions, very rarely supporting DSL because that was more the purview of the higher level techs. And then just picking up stuff. I was their first hire ever that actually had a degree in computers in networking. Everyone else there was like music grads or something like that prior to that. Funny side note, a lot of my roommates from UVM that I lived with actually worked there, so I was I didn't know that at the time until I started working there. So it's kind of nice to see those people again. And then just picking up everything, being real fast. By the end of the first month, they're like, oh no, you already know this. You're going to jump up to the head of the queue. You're going to be responsible for T1s and that type of stuff because CCV had trained me for it. So I did that for a couple of years, and then there was not really any upwards movement because it's a small business. So we only have about 75 employees, and to move up, someone either has to quit or pass away. I mean, it's the only way to get a higher level job. So my ex at the time was going to go school down at Mass Maritime. So I was like, oh well, technology, let's move to Boston. That'll be a better plan for me. So we moved down there and actually got a job for Cisco down there working for them in their NOC. So I managed accounts like Starbucks and Ford and stuff like that. And they're like, oh hey, Cisco networking, you've got your you did your Netacad training and all that stuff. We're gonna put you in as a NOC level 2. I forget they call system analyst. I think is what the actual title was. And they're like, okay, great, you know what you're doing. Here you go. And probably like 3 weeks into it, I managed to take down all of Ford in the Northeast because I put an ACL in wrong. So I was like, ooh, that's a great way to start. But thankfully, I knew exactly what I did. We had out-of-band access. I just jumped back in, removed it, and fixed what I did wrong. So it was only about a 20-minute interruption. But for car dealers, that's an eternity. And boy, there was a lot of learning done that day. So I was there for about a year, and then things went sour with the ex. But I enrolled back in school at the same time at Marlboro, and so I was going there. And that first year, the overlap. I was going to school, living in Boston, going to school at Marlboro because I was doing it remotely at the time. And her and I were competing to see who could get better grades. Just hopefully, maybe that made me focus more on school. It did. I actually graduated with honors from there, so that was great. But things went sour with her, so I moved back up here, and I had a couple job interviews. And then my former boss at Sovereignnet said, "Oh, I hear you moving back up. I have a position. I want you here now to take this position." And so I went in and went, "Okay, what am I doing? You're gonna be the lead repair tech. You're gonna take over the stuff." And I said, "Okay, great." I came in. It was a little bit less paying than the other jobs I've been offered, but I already knew the people. I knew the job. I knew the environment. So I was like, "Yeah, great. I'll do that." So that was in 2008. And then I just kept moving up there. I kept getting other job offers. Like Verizon would try to hire me. A couple other places I had job offers for. And then Sovereignnet kept, every time I said, hey, I got another offer, they're like, here, we're going to match it. We want you to stay here. And so then I kept moving. I moved into what we call our switch room, which is I'm in charge of all the voice technology, the entire phone switch. And then in 2015, I think it was. Yeah, 2015, Sovereignnet got bought out. We got formed into this giant conglomerate called First Light. And now it's, at the time, it was 5 companies that they merged together. They covered New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So 5 companies. Now we have 18 companies that were all meshed together. And so basically my day-to-day job now has gone from doing help desk support to dealing with voice to now I lead projects and integration, and I'm trying to figure out ways to take all these other companies and merge them into our network. And like every day I turn around, there's a different project for me to do for that type of stuff. So I'm doing project management, I'm doing tech, I'm doing layer or level 4 support. I'm trying to remember some of the other stuff. I'm doing programming because it's like all these common tasks that everybody does every day. It's like I can find a way to shorthand that. I've wrote our own web server, so I have a whole bunch of tools that saves probably about 3 days worth of time that people are now doing about 10 minutes because it's all automated through backend scripting and all that stuff. So that's what I spend most of my days doing when I'm not helping students. But I end up just quickly going back in 2011. I ended up graduating Marlboro College with a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees from there. So that's a quick version.
Thanks. And Jane?
I've enjoyed listening to all of you. And much like Michael, I went to college. We programmed on cards, which was exciting. I think maybe some of our students should try that and see how much fun it was, to see if the program passed or not. There were 2 programming classes when I went to college, and one was Fortran and one was Assembler. And I really enjoyed it. I'm one of these people that got married very young. My husband and I went to college together. We got married after our sophomore year, and kind of liked the programming also because I was taking it. I always wanted to be a math teacher from the time I was quite young, which was unusual for a girl back in the 60s that did well in math. So when I graduated, I was a math teacher, and I did that for a while. And then we decided to have a mess of kids, unlike you guys do. I took some time off and had 3 really great kids, and it was a pleasure to have them. And now they're all grown up. When I decided it was time for me to go back to school, or back to work somewhat, my youngest child was 2 years old, and he was not talking at the time. And I had gone to the doctor seeing if there was something wrong. He told me to put him in the daycare center and go back to work. And I kind of for a while, but he really liked it there. And after 10 days, he was talking quite well. And I was an adjunct professor. And while I was teaching math, they allowed me to take a bunch of additional computer classes, and I really liked it. At the time, we were living in lower New York State, and my husband had a very good job, but he wanted something better. So we decided to take the leap and move to Boston. Boston. I can turn on the accent if you'd like me to. We lived there for a number of years, 25 years. For the first 5 years we lived there, I taught as an adjunct professor, teaching up to 7 courses a semester. But the great thing about it was I could juggle the classes with how my kids were. So I was always there when the kids left for school. I was there when the bus came home, and my husband did the night shift because I took a bunch of night classes. One thing I must say about that is I have my oldest daughter had an interest in computers, so I was able to bring her to class, and no one knew that she belonged to me, although she was only in 10th, 9th grade at the time. She did very well, and she really liked it. I didn't want her to be a spaghetti programmer, so she became a very good programmer, and she went to MIT, and she did very well there. After about 5 years, knowing that Tracy wanted to go to MIT, I decided maybe it was time to make some big money. And seeing I had taught 1,000 professional people in Massachusetts, it was not very hard for me to get a job. And I proceeded into the private industry. And I started out as an analyst and worked my way up to a director of engineering. I worked at many of the big companies that most of you probably didn't know. I mean, I started out Prime. I went to Data General, where I worked on the first video on demand project, which I extremely enjoyed. I worked for Data General, and the last company I worked for was EMC. At that point, my husband and I really wanted to have a house on the lake. So we found a house we liked in St. Albans, and we bought it. And so we were juggling our time between the Boston area and St. Albans. And then my daughter decided she was going to start her own business, and I was going to come work for her. So that's what I did. I quit the job at EMC. In reality, probably wasn't really a bad thing to do because it was a very stressful job. And I moved full-time to St. Albans, and that's when I started working for CCV, and in addition to having some of my own clients and working for my daughter. Today, I work for CCV, and I also work for Champlain College. And I still work for my daughter. She's starting another company. And I enjoy my 4 grandchildren. So other than that, I'm a pretty happy person.
Great. Thank you all. That's a wealth of experience and background there that could be very useful to students. One of the things I mentioned in one of the sessions is that, your faculty is a resource. Develop a relationship with your faculty. That's why people are doing this, particularly in technology. We're not getting rich doing this. We get paid more working. You're doing teaching because it's fun, and developing a relation, trying to help people get into this field and decide how to. I've had students over the years say, when should I make the leap? When should I do it? I said, tomorrow, just do it. And that's all, they need to go apply for a job and they get one. The next thing you know, there's lots of opportunities in these careers. So it's nice to hear that experience, especially with so many people not starting in technology, but ending up there. And that's possible. A lot of the students at CCV are changing careers or, starting off and not quite sure what the field is. And the field's so broad now. They used to be a program at one point. So we have a question from one of the students. What's a good way to develop a relationship with one of your professors in an online course?
I can speak to that. I had a student last semester who actually sent me a Canvas message saying that he was trying to switch careers and what would I suggest that he would do. And he was just starting in the field of computer science. And I said the best thing to do is to get some experience. And if you have to go work for someone free, do it. And what has become of that, I told you my daughter's starting another company and she wants to start some sites that are free for people that want to advertise free stuff on. And so I got them in contact with each other, and he's going to do a little bit of videoing for her. So I would suggest the best thing is to try to get some experience no matter what it is, even if it's free.
Tyler.
I would say try to see if they have office hours that they hold too. Oftentimes I'll hold various office hours just as if you need. I wouldn't even schedule any content that I would go right. Just say, come on in and you can ask a question, or we can just talk. And there was a few times I had people show up and they would just kind of ask about various careers. A lot of times I get the question like, how do I know what I like? I know James talked about it. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do. And that's a hard one. The best advice I always say is tinker, play around with stuff. We can give you the language to kind of learn about technology, how technology works, but you don't really know what you want to do until you play with it. But as far as kind of getting that relationship with your instructor, if they have office hours, go to those. Or I know for me, I've had some people shoot an email and say, can you Zoom with me? One-on-one, I just want to ask a question. It never hurts to ask, and I'm sure most instructors would be happy to come up with a Zoom a call for you to just kind of chat and ask whatever you might have questions about.
I would suggest, an email. I love to get emails from students asking about the field and questions about, what do we want to get into? And the field, so there's some jobs you get where you do the same thing for the rest of your career. This isn't one of those fields. You can do something that you may not like right now, but doing that gives you experience, and then you go off, you can do something else. There's so many opportunities here. But anyone else have any suggestions for how to develop a relationship with an online professor?
Go ahead, Darren. I'll wait for you.
Okay. Oh, James, go ahead, and then Darren.
Okay. I was just gonna say, be an active participant in the class. That one is a key one because I can tell you right now, I probably got at least a dozen, if not 2 dozen students I still keep in touch with over the 10 plus years I've been teaching, that they were active in class, they were engaging, they didn't know the material, they had questions, and they weren't afraid to reach out and ask and send me an email or like this semester set up Zoom calls and actually talk about it. And usually what happens is you meet so often, you start forming almost like a friendship. You answer these questions, and then at the end it's kind of like that dead space, so to speak, and then they'll start asking you questions about, well, what you do for your job, and oh, I'd like to do something like that, and they just keep asking questions. It becomes a conversation, and then once you have that, and I always tell students all the time, not just your professors, but make friends with your classmates, because like in my Cisco class, I can't tell you how many times I've had students, graduate, they we get like 8 of them, they get their CCNA, and then one of them goes to work for a company and goes, hey, we need someone to fill these other positions, and they reach out to their classmates, and I was like, you never know who is going to be hiring or who you're going to be working next to. I've brought in probably at least half a dozen students for interviews back when I was a hiring manager, so it's always striking up that conversation, that good relationship with your professor, and again, being an active participant in the class, is always something good, because someone who decides to not really participate or only give like 50%, you're probably not going to have a good relationship with that professor, because that's all they're going to see. If you're engaging each week and saying, hey, I don't understand this, I'm not saying you have to be an A student, but if you're actively saying, I don't get it, I need more help, as long as you're pursuing that, you show that drive, that determination, I think that's going to go a long ways to making a good relationship with your professor.
Yeah, James was great. I would add a lot of what you just said as well. I think one of the hard things in not teaching in person is the regular hellos when you walk in the classroom and the, hey, you're here 5 minutes early. You got a problem in your homework, let's look at it for a few minutes. Or the incidental stuff is hard to get online. So if your instructor has something like discussions or something like that, definitely hop in there and comment not only on your own stuff, but other people's too. And thoughtful comments are good, not just like, oh, it's cool. Maybe comment on something you're doing in your project that compares to theirs. Oh, I appreciate your approach. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Or that always gets my attention when people are kind to one another in discussions. In addition to James was saying too, assignment comments are really, really important. When somebody shows, even if they say, you know what, I really put like 20 hours into this. I don't know what I was thinking. It came out half. Here's the 5 questions I have. Man, I'll spend 2 hours getting back to that student. I have no problem helping people who want to be helped. So definitely engage people in like they're a colleague. Like this is somebody that you know at work. Talk to them, just like they're trying to talk to you through this weird Canvas portal. But thanks.
And I'd say too, I always encourage them, do some projects on your own, and don't be afraid to ask your professor about it. It may not be able to help, but like you fire up a Linux box and start playing with it. And if you got questions, might be able to point you to someone else or something like that. But having the questions is, and it's also, if you do it without talking to your professor or other students, you're kind of operating in a vacuum. and it's really good to bounce things off of multiple people. All the people teaching technology that I know are there for the relationships with students, pretty much. Mike, anything to add to that?
I think just, I agree with a lot of what James said. Make sure you're participating in class online. Make sure you're participating in the discussion questions. Don't be afraid to, kind of challenge what the instructor says, kind of challenge what the other students say. Just show you're really engaged. And if you have a question, either ask it in the forum or send the instructor a little chat in Canvas, whatever they call it. I had one student who's been in 2 classes of mine now, and early in the first class, he had a problem, and we kind of did a Zoom thing. And from there, we have been, we chat by Zoom every few weeks. He either has questions or he wants to learn more about my job. I just talked to him last week. He's getting ready to graduate in a couple of weeks. He wanted to talk about how's my resume look? Do you have any ideas where I can look for a position or anything like that? What should my next step be? And a lot of it kind of develops, I'll say accidentally over time. It's not like an intentional thing. It's just if you're really consistent and persistent, I think many instructors will kind of respond, and you get kind of that bond that James talked about. Just kind of happens over time, and it's just something that grows.
And just as a quick anecdote, when I was a student at CCV, I developed a relationship who's now one of my best friends for over 20 years, who was one of my teachers at CCV at the time, by just participating in his class and, giving a little humor to my assignments or something like that drew his attention in. And like I said, now we've been friends for over 20 years. So it's just interact and be personable.
And Burlington, one of the benefits of Burlington technical community or Northern Vermont technical community is it's fairly small. I mean, you'll bump into people you went to school with, people who know people you knew, people who work where you used to work, and being participating in that community is starting while you're in college is a good idea. So let's talk about what classes you guys teach and any advice you have for students either in those classes or in general. We kind of hit on that a little bit, but we'll go back and start with Mike.
Thanks, Jim. So the 2 classes I have most recently taught, systems administration and a new class I started, I think, last year. It's just a 5-week class, Foundations of Information Security. It's both of those classes I just really enjoy teaching. Systems administration, it's part lecture notes, part hands-on stuff. Students will build a virtual Linux box on their machine, with VirtualBox most commonly. And we use Practice Labs, which is an online virtual environment, just to practice a whole bunch of stuff from a systems administration point. I encourage students when they're doing either the Linux on their machine or Practice Labs, don't be afraid to try something and make a mistake. The worst you're going to do is hose up a virtual machine, and you either need to rebuild your Linux machine, or in Practice Labs, just push the reset button and the environment's refreshed. You were in my class. Foundations of Information Security. This is something that's become so near and dear to me. With kind of the whole threat landscape. Ransomware, cybersecurity, and all. This has been like a major focus of mine over the past 5 years for sure, and it's just becoming more and more of a focus every day. I still remember back 10 years ago when we had our first cyber incident in my school district. We were brand new to Google. Nobody used 2-factor authentication 10 years ago, and a person had her Google account compromised, and we went 5 days where the person who compromised her account sent an email to other people in the district with a kind of a fake Google login. Here, I shared this with you, enter your username and password, and it was just kind of spiraling out of control. It took 5 days to get that under control. But Foundations of Information Security, I kind of, from a personal perspective, what are the key things individuals need to worry about to protect their online identity? Because data services, database companies, Facebook and LinkedIn and all, they're not going to protect you. It's up to you to protect yourself. So those are kind of my 2 big focuses right now with CCV.
All right, Darren?
Hey, I teach a lot of, again, going back to the creative side of kind of my later age. I kind of started off creative, went left brain, and now I'm back into the middle. So I teach a lot of digital animation is one class I teach. So I used Adobe Animate, learn all about making characters and keyframes and timing, all that kind of stuff. Traditional animation techniques from the 30s kind of brought forward with technology. So we don't need 400 people to make Cinderella anymore. We can do it with just a few. I also teach Adobe Creative Cloud. I do have a background in graphic design as well, so I'm very familiar with those programs. And we basically do a 3-week crash course in Photoshop, a 3-week crash course in Illustrator, and then a 3-week crash course in InDesign. And the last few weeks, so every time we have left, is kind of just putting them all together and making some really cool stuff. The other course I've been teaching a lot lately is website development. And that class is a lot of front-end development. So we start from scratch using an HTML editor. We build up from HTML and CSS. And we learn all about different things from animation to Bootstrap. We start in JavaScript about 2/3 of the way through. And in the spring, I'll be teaching website development too, which is the back-end side of that. So I'll be working a lot of PHP and MySQL on a Linux server. And then once in a while, they'll let me sneak in a ceramics class when nobody's looking. So I have to get my hands dirty. Are we doing advice yet, or we're just doing what classes we teach? Yeah.
You do advice.
Okay. Just had a couple things of advice I just wanted to offer from my own experience. Every experience that I've ever had in my life, as weird as they are, and as funny as they sort of send themselves to get me to where I am today, it started with an action. And the action was almost always based on curiosity and motivation. And I just wanted to say that. When I started working with nonprofits and volunteering, I had to make 200 phone calls to get 5 clients. So you have to take what you know, and you have to have that courage to take that step and get out there. And I would say, don't hesitate. My job at the Vermont Country Store I got that job on a bet. I was hoping the job was based on Photoshop, and I had a plan, but I never used Photoshop, and I had to interview, and the CEO brought it up during the interview, and I said I'd never used it before, and he just smiled and he waited. And I said, but I will, before the first day, and I bought Photoshop on the way home at Staples for $540. It was Photoshop 5. So you just never know. I mean, the interview you don't go to, that's the only one you're guaranteed not to get. So make sure to put yourself out there. You look at job interviews and you say, oh, I don't have that qualification, or I don't have that experience. A lot of companies will hire the right person because they can train the right person. So that's a big difference. So that was my advice. Thanks.
I'll even add on top of that, go to an interview you don't want to get the job for the practice of the interview, because trying to describe your school experience. And I tell students, you might say, I took a sysadmin class. They're going to ask you what you studied in that sysadmin class. And you should be able to articulate that well. Rather, the students tend to just say, yeah, I took a sysadmin class, and not be able to say anything beyond that. Also, the more interviews you can do, the better experience you'll be, and the better you present yourself. Tyler.
Well, so like I was saying earlier, I teach for a few different universities. I teach for CCV, I teach for a university called Franklin University in Ohio, and I also teach here at SUNY Plattsburgh. I started at CCV teaching a Linux course, but in the past I've taught user computer support, I've taught desktop operating systems. Most recently I got to develop the foundational cloud computing course, the intro to cloud computing. So I've had a lot of fun working with the new cloud computing program. Both security, I kind of share that passion with Mike, as well as cloud-based services. Those kind of 2 things together are my passion, trying to make secure clouds. Just kind of a cool stuff I'm interested in. But I taught at Plattsburgh, I taught PHP, our intro to programming class, which is Python. At Franklin University, I teach application security, and I also teach a web development course. It's a more advanced course, so it's all PHP based, and it's part of their security program. So we kind of learn how to build in security as we're building web applications. And then the application security course is fun because then we get to try to break that stuff. We play around with some utilities from OWASP, which actually has some applications that are built purposefully to be vulnerable. So I taught I guess a smorgasbord of different classes from Linux to system admin to actual programming type stuff. As far as advice goes, I kind of gave a little bit. Tinker, play with things to learn what you like. The other thing I would say is don't take bad advice. And I know that's hard because you're like, well, what is bad advice? But I would say sometimes go with your gut. Like if you do love something, then there's going to be some way you're going to be able to fit that into your career choice. Because several people have said it today, the technology field is so broad that there's going to be somewhere a niche for you. And the beauty about it, I think, is that if you're somebody that, I think James earlier said, well, I didn't want to be a programmer and sit in front of a computer all day. There are some people that are like, I want to specialize in one thing, and I do want to sit in front of a computer all day and program. If that's you, there's going to be a job for you. If you're the kind of person like me who says, I want to wear a bunch of different hats, I want to play with a Linux machine and do programming and do this, there's also going to be a job for you because it's so broad, depending on the organization you're in, big or small. You could be hyper-focused or you could be kind of a generalist. So I think that's the beauty about our field is there's going to be something for you. So don't give up, keep trying. And I think all the interview stuff that you heard was useful. One thing I would add to the interview too is don't get discouraged. We do a thing when we interview folks where we give a skills test. And depending on where you are going in our kind of tech area, the test is a little different. But a lot of times we throw in questions just to fluster people because we want to see how do you adapt to something that's a little bit more difficult, or how do you approach a problem that we know you don't have enough time to complete? Are you resourceful? Are you looking up things on your phone? And then at the end of it, the important part is when we talk to you about it. How did you feel when we asked you to do this? And some people will say, well, I didn't have enough time, but I was approaching it like this. And it's those answers we were really getting at, not just whether you've got a certain score on the test. So that's another thing I would point out is be prepared for those kind of tricks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, James.
Let's see. I started out teaching concepts of PC hardware and desktop operating systems back when we had a massive backlog of people who needed those two classes to graduate. So I was doing both of those every semester. And then I went into Cisco networking. And that's my personal favorite. I love teaching that class, but it is a 4-semester class. So it's quite a bit of a commitment. But unfortunately, we've kind of sunset that program a little bit here with the PC network administration degree no longer being offered. So now I'm doing concepts of local area networks. And so that's my, about every semester I've been doing that. Kind of miss teaching multiple classes, but unfortunately now that I have a small child, the time commitment for teaching, especially when you're giving a lot of attention to your students, is quite massive. So I've had to cut back to only one a semester. But I do love networking. It's been my career for almost 17 years now. And I just love introducing new students to it and just showing them how deep the rabbit hole can go, way past what they thought it was possible. So, for advice type stuff, again, I just want to reiterate, make friends, not just your professor, but your peers. And then two more things. So the first one is never be afraid to say, I don't know. So no one's going to knock you for honestly admitting you don't know. If you make up an answer and it's totally wrong, that's going to come back and be worse than just going, I honestly don't know, let me go find out. Something like that, just be honest about it. And then the last thing is, what's been very valuable to me over the years is you get out what you put in. So if you put in more effort, I found this out as a student when I started at UVM and then my first couple years at CCV, just kind of being happy sitting in the back of the classroom, kind of blending in, just kind of being a number in the background versus my last year at CCV when I became an active participant in the class, actually started interacting with the teacher, taking and putting effort into my studies. I got so much more out of school, especially when I was at Marlboro, putting that effort in, I got so much more back out of it. And the same thing applies to, work and stuff like that. The more effort you put in, the more you're gonna get back from it.
Hey, great. Jane?
I usually teach database classes, some Access. I've been teaching Introduction to Computer Science with Python. And next semester, I'm going to get the opportunity to teach Python too, which I'm excited about because I like programming. What I like about CCV is I like the course description, and I always put mine out early, so anyone who's looking at it knows what the expectations are going to be for my course. And they can always get in. I open up the course as early as I can to the modules I have completed. And there's always an overview module. And in that overview module, you will find probably some getting started stuff. And one of the things might be that I would like you to install the software. Make sure that you have had your textbook on day one, and also some videos and some information that you can read, so you'll be a little ahead of the game. When I was on the technology committee at CCV, there was a suggestion that we might add a resume discussion into the course, and I have done that. And one of the questions I'll ask, which I used to, when I would hire people, I'd ask questions about, what was on the resume. I would always say, would you put Access on your resume? And most students would say yes. And then I would begin to ask some questions. And I had a hiring manager in one of my classes once, and he said, Jane, are you really allowed to ask an interview like that and tell them to go to the whiteboard? And I said, yes, you can. So I think that's a good learning lesson for the students. If you're going to put something on your resume, you should know something about it. So if they say they're putting it on the resume, I will come right back with a question and ask them, how would you do this in Access? And if they can't answer it, that's a wake-up call for them. I agree with all of you that the world is small in computer science, and you should make friends and be careful not to make enemies. If you get into the big companies and you make a big enemy at the top, you probably will not be working, because once you apply for another job, I've seen it happen to vice presidents in my career. They've lost their job and they'll apply to another job, get all the way to the top, and then they'll start checking. Even though you say you can't, you don't give them as a reference, they will call up their buddies at that computer firm. So yes, it's a small world. I can give you an example. When I worked at Prime, I wrote a bunch of subroutines, and 2 jobs later, I was in a training session, and the guy turned around and said, are you Jane Addams? You wrote that subroutine for me 5 years ago. I can't wait to get back and tell my employees that I've met you. So it is a very small world. It's a very, very small world. Do not make enemies. I'll take that from my mother. Don't make enemies. Try to be accommodating if possible.
Okay. Thank you all. I'll throw in a little bit. I teach the part of the cybersecurity certificate program that just added the course last year, CIS 2255, Principles and Management of Cybersecurity. And it kind of follows after, I think, the one Mike teaches if you're doing it. It's a non-technical course, but I managed this cybersecurity forensics program at Champlain up until about 2017 when I retired. And so I have a big interest in cybersecurity, and it's growing at the community college level. One of the problems is you're not going to get a job in cybersecurity with a 2-year degree. So we need, helping them plan about how to go on to a 4-year program. One of our next sessions is going to be transfer articulation and things like that. But cybersecurity is such a big field now, it's such an opportunity for people to get jobs in. And this course particularly, there's so many things you can do in an organization that aren't technical with security. You can make sure the policies are enforced. You can make sure the policies are written. You can make sure everyone's doing good behavior. And I mean, most of cybersecurity incidents are some user clicked on something they shouldn't have clicked on. And so the more you can do to prevent that. And the advice I always try to give students is I think one of the things you should get out of a college degree is the ability to ask good questions. Because your boss is going to give you something to do and expect you to work on it, come back and say, and you're going to say, this is what I did. He's going to say, what did you try? And when I do this with students, they'll say, I tried everything. I said, no, I asked, what did you try? I tried everything and nothing works. And trying to articulate that better. What did you exactly try? What worked? Because your boss is expecting you're going to come back and then he's going to give you another direction to go in. So what he wants you to come back with is describing what you did and then a good question saying, I'm not sure how to do this. I don't know how to do this. And I agree with everyone else. If a student writes to me and says, I get students to turn an assignment and the next day say, I didn't understand that assignment. And I'm saying, why didn't you email me and get some direction on that? And this helps establish that relationship too, because that means I've got a student that tried the assignment before 10 minutes before it was due at midnight, looked at it and didn't understand it, wrote to me for further direction. I could send it back out to them and try to give them some direction and help out with that. And so it's certainly it's a plus and it shows some initiative on the student's part. But learning how to formulate questions and responses, describing what you did is really important. Esco, do you have any other questions? We're almost out of time. We're actually out of time. But would you have another question for the faculty? Pasha? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much for the session. And as I said, it'll be recorded and be available to students. And I think we'll send out a suggestion for before next term saying if you want to know more about your faculty before classes start, check out this session. All right. So thank you all very much for joining us. It was great. I loved hearing everybody talk about what they've done and the careers people have had. It's fascinating. It's wonderful.
It's very impressive. I think.
Yeah.
I could talk about video games all night long.
Fun work. All right. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Night.
There. I'm back.
When you find the right Trojan code,
Yeah.
you're protected. And when we Protected. We mean you're protected. You are so protected. You're gonna want so much protection, it'll be all you can think about. Protection in the morning.
Okay.
Protection in the evening. Protection late at night. You've never felt this protected. Feel your best. Get yours on. Trojan.
The McDonald's breakfast is too good to speak deal. Sounds a lot like that. And who wants to chit-chat in the morning when you have McDonald's to eat anyway?
Get a sausage McMuffin, sausage burrito, or any size premium roast hot coffee, any two for $2. Or get a sausage McMuffin with egg, two for $4.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Price and participation may vary. Single item at regular price cannot be combined with combo meal.
Kingsman, world's finest tailor.
This Christmas, this is going to be fun. 20th Century Studios invites you to bring your friends to see a heartwarming tale of killing, sex, and deceit.
We're going to show him who the Kingsman are.
The King's Man, rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent. Only in theaters December 22nd. Tickets on sale now.
there's also hybrid touchscreen devices or stuff like that. So okay, so that probably would be storage and also encrypted files.
When you find the right Trojan condom for you, you're protected. And when the right condom for you is a Trojan bear skin, it's really, really thin. We're not allowed to tell you what really thin feels like, but we can tell you it's really thin. Really, really thin. Really, really, really thin. How thin? Really, 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 really. Feel Get yours on, Trojan.
Howdy, Streamer here, sitting next to this beautiful stream. Hey, Stream, how are you so beautiful? I see. So you're actually 3 amazing streams in one? That's Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus all in one stream? For only $13.99 a month? You're the most beautiful stream in the world. Oh, yes, you are. The Disney Bundle. It's streaming at its best.
Includes Hulu ad-supported plan. Access content from each service separately. Terms apply. Visit thedisneybundle.com for details.
If the world we live in spoke to you, it would have a torrent of things to say. It would say meaning is subjective. Belonging, just opt in. Be sure to comment and like. It would say follow us, provide purpose. We say there is another path, where you battle to belong, where there's a cause to fight for, where you earn a place among the brave, the proud, the Marines. Learn more at marines.com.
When you find the right Trojan condom for you, you're protected. And when the right condom for you is a Trojan bear skin, it's really, really thin. We're not allowed to tell you what really thin feels like, but we can tell you it's really thin. Really, really thin. Really, really, really thin. How thin? Really, 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 really. Feel your best. Get yours on. Trojan.
Howdy, Streamer here.
Post reply.
To this beautiful stream. Hey, Stream, how are you so beautiful? Ah, I see. So you're actually two amazing streams in one? That's Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus all in one stream? For only $13.99 a month? You're the most beautiful stream in the world. Oh, yes, you are. The Disney Bundle. It's streaming at its best.
Includes Hulu ad-supported plan. Access content from each service separately. Terms apply. Visit thedisneybundle.com for details.
If the world we live in spoke to you, it would have a torrent of things to say. It would say meaning is subjective. Belonging, just opt in. Be sure to comment and like. It would say follow us, provide purpose. We say there is another path, where you battle to belong, where there's a cause to fight for, where you earn a place among the few, the proud, the Marines. Learn more at marines.com.
The sleep supplement of your dreams is available at slowmag.com. Slowmag MG Calm and Sleep is formulated with a unique balance of magnesium and melatonin, which helps the body relax naturally for healthy sleep. Wake up refreshed with Slowmag MG Calm and Sleep. Tap the banner to learn more. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Searching for meaning in a relentless world. But there is another path, where the battle to belong begins. Awakened by a calling, united by purpose, defined by the cause you fight for. No one can take away what it means to be among the few, the proud, the Marines. Learn more at marines.com.
With Squarespace,
I'm choosing cleaner and fast to clean out the growth file so it might work
or
and to speed it up.
and book clients for and sell content to people who like or Squarespace
Period.
is everything you need to sell anything. Use offer code Spotify for 10% off your Squarespace website.
There we go. Gmail stuff. So,
With Squarespace, you can sell
Organic, raw, natural.
or
Builds.
and book clients for
And how does that make you feel?
or
Come on, feel the burn!
and sell content to people who like
Welcome back to Techno Knitting.
yeah, Squarespace is everything you need to sell anything.
Twitch recap.
10% off your Squarespace website.
Who did I watch more?
Streaming free only on IMDb TV.
Hello, Spy Boy.
Alex Rider is back.
People are in danger.
When a newly released video game threatens to destroy America's defense system.
Someone tried to hack the Pentagon.
Whoa.
He's the only one who can uncover the conspiracy.
Have to stop.
Stream Alex Rider Season 2
28,000.
Fire TV, Roku, and anywhere Prime Video is available. IMDb TV, always entertaining, always
108 for the channels.
From Academy Award winner Guillermo del Toro comes one of the best films of the year.
What do I want?
To be found out.
Nightmare Alley is gorgeous and
These are fans. There's you.
Kate Blanchett are seductive opposing forces.
Wow.
You're not as hard to read as you think, lady.
This Friday, don't miss the most
Top watched. Still that. Good. And of course, share that. Really? Okay. Still mark as unread. 16, delete. 19, delete. Okay. No, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. And thank you for the follow. Jazzy CVT. Nice streamer. Stream summary. 1.8. Yep, YouTube. Login, of course. Another live from Jazzy. 1.8 Av. And good. Hello? Hello? Hello there. Of course me, but I'm not gonna say that I do. Wow. Okay, I want to see my impact. Achievement, get 1 trillion views. More. Delete that. Straight talk. That's nice. Of course. Ooh, 2021. Minutes, views. Of course, most viewed. Servo. 3 different places. 4 countries. Of course. Okay.